So welcome. Thank you so much for having us today here in this wonderful Eurotech week. I know it's the start, and we're up and early, getting going. And I just want to make sure that folks know who we have up here. Ximena, it's such a pleasure to meet you. I saw you on a panel in DC, Phone to Action's done a lot of great work. Shiva Mathapathi with NIST, one of my favorite agencies. When I used to be at the government, they're so innovative. And Joni, the stuff that you guys are doing is transformational. I mean, I thought about wearables a long time ago, and I never thought that it would be applied to smart ways of doing, the way we see cities, the way we transfer that into new applications. It's exciting. I want to go ahead and ask everyone to introduce yourselves, to tell us a little bit about your company. And we are being videotaped, so we're going to go ahead and put that up live and be able to tweet about it and get folks to know what we're doing here at EuroWeek. So we'll start with you, Ximena.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm Ximena Hartsock. I am a co-founder at Phone to Action. Phone to Action is a digital grassroots engagement platform. You may not have heard of us, but you certainly have seen the brands that use our technology, from Airbnb to Lyft, to a very large number of organizations like the Women March. And the software that we built powers organizations to connect people with their elected officials so they can participate in the civic process and let them know how they feel about policies, for example, in transportation, building a bridge, or whether using those funds to create better access for bikes, or education, the type of curriculum kids will have in a school. So it's a way to really support the smart cities, because it does make that a combination of civic participation and also informing elected officials what their constituents care about. Thanks.
Yes, so I'm Joni Kettunen from Firstbeat, and we are doing heartbeat analytics, so basically physiological analytics for different kinds of wearables, preventive healthcare services, elite sports, and let's see how the connections will be for the smart society. So basically, using heartbeat data, we can deliver a good understanding of your stress levels, for example, of your fitness, and how they are improving. And this analytics is part of a number of consumer wearables, for example, Garmin, Samsung, Huawei, and we actually market leader in that space. So basically providing fitness and wellness analytics as a part of those devices. We also power a lot of sports teams around the world, so in 40 different countries. So, for example, the Las Vegas NHL team is our customer, but many of the pro teams. But really, in terms of society, the smartest part that we do is that we help. We work with the societies and with the workplaces to have people and the employee to understand better their health and their lifestyle and the connection between their lifestyle and work and their health, and that's a holistic way of understanding their well-being, and for that we use the wearables data to analyze what is the condition of each employee or individual or patient, basically. So that's what we do.
Hello everyone, my name is Shivakaumar Mathapathi. I am the co-founder and CTO of a company called Mobil-ity. That's my daytime job. And basically I'm also associated with, like Natalia mentioned, with NIST, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technologies. So what it does is it's a global city team challenge. They floated about 4 years back. I have been working with them for last 4 years. This will be my 5th city which I will be adopting it. So what it does is that it basically give an affiliation from the university point of it, industry and the city. So all three form as an action cluster. So I am the team lead for 4 cities. 2 cities in California, one in San Leandro, and one up in the north, that is the Sonoma, there's a Ronart Park, and one in Ireland, which is associated with the Galway city, and the 4th one is a city called Davangere, that's in India. So the goal is that you develop once and scale it for multiple cities. So far we have done the prototypes for smart waste management, flood monitoring, and environmental monitoring, that is the air quality and the temperature and the humidity in the city. So it's a pilot to have been run up in all these 4 cities. So NIST has been supporting for us. In fact, it's very interesting to see how it is grown. For 2018, they're talking about the cyber security and the privacy. So all this time the prototypes are there. Now data is there. Now I'm working on the cyber city and the privacy model on that. And I'm also affiliated with the 2 universities. One is in Santa Clara University, which I teach a subject called Internet of Things, as in passionate about the Internet of Things. It's a 4-unit course for the masters, and also do the projects at the Sonoma State University. So I'm looking forward to this panel. Thank
you. And one of the things that we sometimes don't think about when we talk about policy is, for example, something so simple like air quality. People didn't used to be able to think how, if we don't improve our air quality, policymakers, based on the pressure from the different constituency, how do you, figure out if people's, health is doing well, if their kids are doing well, if what are the rates of air quality and how it's affecting our health every day and the stress levels that we have. We didn't used to do that, and not until we had legislation say, by the way, if you don't improve your air quality, you won't get any transportation infrastructure money. So we won't be able to do all this infrastructure stuff you want us to do. And so it is all relatively tied. And what's important is to see that the concept of the smart city, it's not only about transportation and infrastructure, it's about constituent engagement, about the tiny little things from retail to air quality, to how you walk. Now we can measure everywhere we walk. We can figure out ways that we can walk, more distances and get points for it. How do we improve our health quality? So all these different innovations in smart cities have been able to, make new businesses, right, and get people more engaged. Now the kids are like, competing. I did more steps than you did. I'm hoping that they do, they play less video games than each other, hopefully. But how has this whole movement helped? If you give me an example, how the smart city movement, because when I, years ago, it didn't used to be called smart cities. It was just called, making good planning. How has this movement helped your organization? And I know that we all have different examples, but how has this really helped you and your business and your customers feel more empowered? And if you can give me an example of that and your success, that would be really good for people to know that this is not just policy, this is real stuff happening.
Yeah, so I think the internet and the ability to create so easy applications over the internet has changed everything and has dramatically killed products and give birth to other products. So the camera, for example, 20 years ago, it was a huge discovery, and now cameras are in the phones, are in the watches, everywhere. And so the same has happened with other industries. Civic technology didn't exist 5 years ago. The smartphone created civic technology. People with their phones can do anything today. So you have the internet, smartphones, and social media together, and now everyone, all the citizens, constituents are informed. People do not need to buy a newspaper. They just open Twitter. They see what the president is saying right there. And so with that power that people have, lawmakers no longer have the power over the communications with constituents. They don't control it anymore. This is a new new territory for them. What constituents do, they can create a rally in a couple of minutes on Twitter and completely change the dynamic of the legislation. In the US, with 318 million people, thousands of jurisdictions, a very convoluted regulatory and legislative system, a smartphone powered to connect you with your elected official can make a big difference. It has happened. The American Heart Association changed a law that for 15 years they have fought about. They changed it over 120 tweets, and Governor Cuomo in New York changed the law. He signed it. The same has happened across the country with healthcare. the huge movement over Obamacare really allowed for that to exist. And now net neutrality is another one that continues to be fought. But where are these battles happening? They're happening on social media. So it's a completely new territory. And so companies like mine, what we did is, we saw the writing on the wall 4 or 5 years ago, and we started developing technology that will send transcripts to regulatory offices or to Congress or different pages that were different to connect with before. And, we build a business that we can use now to power organizations that are trying to lobby Congress, but also to power citizens for them to have a say-so in the laws that are happening, that are influencing, that are impacting them in their particular home. So here in DC, for example, in Washington, D.C., bike share, the bike transportation system happened because of constituent engagement. Uber, Lyft, they're powered across the country because people are taking action and they're telling city councils that they want them there. Airbnb in Italy, Airbnb in Canada, the same thing. And so I think this is a new era of capital projects. It's a new era of anything that happens in a city. No longer those will happen behind the scenes with departments of agencies making decisions on their own. They can no longer ignore the citizens. Now lawmakers know they want those people to vote for them again. They know that when they make a decision, the person on the other side, the constituent, can re-elect them or not. And they want to be re-elected, so they're listening.
Okay. Sure, Sure. Yeah, I think I agree with the earlier speaker, with the earlier panelist. The technology is coming up, especially on the 5G, LTE, and a lot of the Internet of Things. Like it is predicted that about 50 billion devices by 2020. It keeps changing the number. So number of devices are really, really getting connected, and it is become real time. It's not that often. When I say real time, it will be few seconds you get the reading. Like you mentioned. Environmental CO2. If you place the CO2 all across the city, you get the readings in seconds. Come from a technical background, I know these are all really matured. Everybody is participating in that, especially on the semiconductor, sensor companies, cloud companies, microcontroller companies. Everybody is really participating to pitch this, Internet of Things big for the smart city. So the other hand, when it comes to the constitutions or on the administrative from the city, I would disagree a little bit. We have few challenges still on the city side. And again, it is proportional to the city to city. One city may have a different problem, another city may have a different problem. If you go to California, Ronald Park and the San Leandro, we have an excellent 5G connections or 4G connections. But when you go to another places like in India, smart city, there's a lot budget is there, but there's no connection at all. Still we are into 3G, 2.5G, that kind of a connections, and all these sensors need to be connected. And the other thing is the citizens also play a very, very important role, like you mentioned, because they have to really vote for anything, whatever the government takes, because some are really very educated to get all these devices. Some are really try to getting into that. And one example I would like to share here is, in Ireland, it's a classic example. We got a CO2 installed everywhere. We get the reading, and government is also working with them. They want the reading every day, and we provide them through the institutions. When it goes to in India, we are working on an environmental project. One city, they are producing a product called a rice puff. It's basically rice puff. The product, how it produces, they have to put the fuel. They have to put all the fuel. So the type of material they use to generate that heat or a fuel is a very undesired one. They used all the rubber, the wood, which is not undesired. So that creates lot of environmental hassles to the people. This really whole city is getting affected by that environmental. That now government is trying to abolish that everything and put a new system into that. Means you make a fuel system or a heat system, a new system, so that we have a CO2 or air quality, less air quality there. The good air quality there. Government is taking initiative, but the citizens, still they are not inclined towards that, because they are saying that no, we need to. It's a livelihood of ours. They think that if the government takes away everything, automate everything, then they might take our job. Because there are millions of people working on that. So there are plus and minus are there, but we are getting it there. So it's very important that government and the citizens and the lawmaker, they have to work together to make the specifications very, very clear, appealing to everybody, so understand everybody to that. But we are getting it there. Every year I'm seeing that lot of improvements. Last year whatever, this year I'm seeing a lot of improvement on that. Yeah.
So from my perspective, so as let's say the smart system society, so it's about human and bringing better life. So having millions and millions of wearables around there and starting to collect data on stress, on different aspects of your body. So basically, it can provide a feedback loop into what's happening there in different conditions and contexts. So that's our approach to this.
I think something else is the access to data that we have today. So with wearables, for example, the enormous amount of intelligence that we're getting from people, what they do, their behavior, the same we're getting from voter data, how people are voting for a variety of things that are voting on issues, not just on candidates, and then consumer data. And so I think what we'll see over time is that smart cities are going to be really customized to their communities.
And it's also, the concept of cradle to cradle, right? Thinking about sustainability and thinking about what goes around comes around. So if we're thinking not about our citizens and not about the future, then somehow we're going to get affected. And it's that dialogue, I think, between communities. And you're very right when it talks about you have so many different counties and cities and townships, and everyone think they're independent kingdoms. I came from negotiating for NATO between Poland, Czech Republic, and Hungary, and I couldn't get two states to talk to each other in the U.S. For me, it was astonishing. And so I was thinking, wow, how do we get them to agree on water data? So from a policymaker perspective, what would you say? Just in a minute or so, is policymakers sometimes can get in the way, or sometimes they want to overregulate. But what would be the best thing that a government official could do to make sure that you're successful, right? What is it? It's not more regulation. Is it less regulation? Is it figuring out ways to put more money into the SBIR program? Is there more money to put into research and innovation? Is there more money? Do we have to have better tax breaks, for products that are actually health related? I know in the Affordable Care Act we actually put incentives for you to do, for companies to be able to adopt health, wellness programs, right? So what one policy that could help your business, from a smart city and sustainable approach that could help you be more successful?
Well, I think it's all of the above, everything that you said. I think investments in education. So we have a STEM a talent pipeline. I think we all suffer from lack of talent. Really, a real commitment to schools to bring innovation into schools in elementary school, not in high school. That is too late. Always taxes is a big one, and really incentivize innovation across the front. I mean, in the U.S., skill immigration reform is one, but there are many others.
Yeah, I'm from Europe, from a high tax environment. So, I think it's generally allowing the use of data to being smarter, and in terms of, let's say, health. So being able to invest in preventive healthcare, for example, being able to do things smarter in a way that you end up saving money not immediately, but in a few years of time. So being smarter and basically being able to use money to make smarter decisions. So being able to use data to make smarter decisions. That's.
Yeah, one policy probably, if at all, if I give a chance to, I can share is, it's a great example from the NIST. They are forming this global city team challenge. Extension to that, what I would say is that, if we can get the city's attention, at least one designated manager, I know I'm talking about a lower level, one designated manager, if they can involve with the companies or the startup or the university, understand what problems are there, and how they can help it, because they are the one who opening up the use cases. Then these industries and the startups, they are all solving the problem. So I would say they have to involve day-to-day activities with these universities and companies. What is happening is there is always solo. We develop something and we go to the city and oh no, we don't want this, we want something else. So there has to be a interaction with them. They have to be really part of that ecosystem. I think that will have a lot of things. I don't see even the money is a problem there. We have the money, we have the resource, only the coordinations, because for last 3 years I have been seeing that, we go there and that, I think that might help us, yeah.
Well, I just want to thank our panel. Thank you so much for giving us your time, and it'll be exciting rest of the week, and I hope to run into you and work more closely together. Thank you again.